NFL senior writer for ESPN.com, John Clayton, set to join us here on the Sports Bash. The Rams and Titans pulled off a trade about 2 weeks ago, and the Eagles tried to one-up them. They moved to the number 2 spot, John. I saw your tweet that you liked the trade from the Titans' standpoint when they made the deal. Who do you like to trade for in this instance, Philadelphia or Cleveland?
Well, if the quarterbacks work out, there's no doubt that I think Philadelphia gets the best of this one. And this may sound strange because, the one that was made by the Rams, I think, was 1, desperation, and 2, marketing. Because now you all of a sudden, for the top pick in the draft, you get the top quarterback, and it's a good sell in L.A. I think what Howie Roseman did is made a statement. And his statement is the quarterbacks coming out of college after this year are not going to be as good as these 2 quarterbacks. And when you think about it, he may be the first general manager to activate what I think we're going to be able to see reluctantly over the next 4 or 5 years. The quarterbacks taken out of the draft are going to have to sit because, one, they're spread quarterbacks. And so when he made that trade, I immediately went over and started looking at the next 2 years. All right, so what is coming out? If you look at the 10 quarterbacks next year that are available, top 10 guys, there's not one pro set quarterback. I mean, you've got Chad Kelly, who is Jim Kelly's nephew. He's probably the 3rd best quarterback coming out in the next 2 years, but he's a spread offense in Ole Miss. All right, the best quarterback is Deshaun Watson out of Clemson, who's probably going to turn pro. He's 6'2", 210, spread quarterback. May have to sit a year. Then you had Brad Cahay from Miami. He's the pro set guy. But there's only 1 in 2 years. And why is that important? The spread quarterback is the one who is not ready for the NFL in the sense that he doesn't know how to backpedal because he doesn't have to. He doesn't work with a tight end. He doesn't work with a fullback. He doesn't take snaps behind the line of scrimmage. He doesn't even huddle. I mean, what he basically does is just stand there and throw where the coach wants him to throw. So I think what the recognition is that Howie looked at these quarterbacks and said, hey, I don't care if it's Jared Goff. I don't care if it's Carson Wentz. What I'm looking at is 2 quarterbacks that I think are better than the next 2 to 3 years, and I want to be in a position to take them because I want to win football games and not be drafting in the top 8.
John, and I think that's a great point about Wentz. Is the one thing that really stands out, especially being in Philadelphia, watching Kelly in that offense, is you're going to see a more traditional offense, and Wentz is one guy who ran one of those traditional offenses. Now, April 14th, you tweeted out you believe the Rams will draft Carson Wentz. Do you still think that?
Sure do. History says it. Absolutely.
So if that's the case, do the Eagles make that deal wanting Goff, or are they making this deal thinking they're getting Wentz?
As Howie Roseman said, I don't care about ice cream, if it's chocolate or vanilla. I don't care if it's pizza, if it's pepperoni or sausage. He doesn't care. That quarterback's sitting next year. He's not going to play. He's going to be on ice because Howie, I think, is now the first GM to start to recognize what's coming out of college and how it fits, and you're going to have to sit him. And if you want the productivity, you don't want to ruin him by rushing him in the first year. Now, if all of a sudden that quarterback, let's say that Carson Wentz comes in and by week 6 or 7 looks so good, then you make the natural move like that, and then you put him as a starting quarterback. But I think the plan is that he's going to be inactive for 16 games next year, whether it's going to be Goff or Wentz. But the reason I say it's going to be Wentz, just look what Jeff Fisher's done in his career. Okay, 6'3", 230-pound small college quarterback, Steve McNair. 6'5", 230-pound quarterback, Steve Young. Okay, Wentz 6'5", 237. Jared Goff is 6'4", 218 with skinny legs. Jeff wants the guy who's going to be the runner, the tough quarterback, the one that's going to have the same. They both have the same arm strength, but the better upside's probably on Carson. I think he goes Carson.
That would be a very interesting wrench in the wheel, I guess. I think the indication by people in this area, John, is that the Eagles like Wentz better than they like Goff. But he did say chocolate vanilla. I did hear that line as well. But there's a lot of people that think that they would rather Wentz for Doug Peterson. What do you make of what Bradford's situation is right now? Does Bradford, is he gone? I mean, because you're saying, well, they sit him. Well, Bradford apparently is not happy. Can they move him? Does he just have to suck it up? How do you read into Bradford's future in Philadelphia?
What he probably should do is call Colin Kaepernick, and they can, just talk about how crazy their situations are. No, he has to be uncomfortable because, out of his free will, he signed a 2-year deal at $36 million. I mean, $4 million guaranteed next year, and you know that next year he's going to get cut or traded. He's not going to be an Eagle because they're going to have a quarterback there to replace him, and they have a quarterback in a backup quarterback there for 3 years at $21 million. And so, Chad, you know that there's not going to be much of a future is for Sam Bradford. But the problem is there's only 2 teams to trade to. I mean, you got the Denver Broncos, and you know what's going to happen with that. If you're going to make a trade, they're going to ask Bradford to, take a pay cut down to $7 million, which he's not going to do. And, they'd have to have Howie Roseman pay a whole bunch of money to Denver to make that trade happen. So he's stuck here, just like Colin Kaepernick, because he's not going to take a pay cut wisely. He's stuck in San Francisco.
John, thoughts around the league on Bradford? Do people think that the Eagles are evaluating him correctly, that basically the Eagles made an evaluation based on the 1 year that he was here and said, you're not the guy, right? Is that how you're reading this?
Well, it depends on what evaluation. When you pay him 2 years, $36 million, you're saying you're the guy for now, and we think you're the guy because, they didn't give him backup money. They gave him good starting money. But I think the fact that, it's 2 years, there was going to be a transition to something else. And so, they wouldn't have paid him that much if they didn't think he was any good. And I think people around the league think he's good, but he's not great. And I think a lot of people thought, hey, you probably should have paid him 14, but to make this thing work, you paid him 18.
Right, and that's where it gets interesting. So did they make this move with the thought, not with no thought that they can get to this point? Did all of a sudden the pieces start to fill in? Wow, we keep moving up. We have the ammunition. We can get here. So did they kind of make the Bradford move? It almost seems like they didn't have a blueprint. This was just kind of fly by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, I think that's the case because, they were sitting at 13, and then here comes the Miami Dolphins saying, hey, I'll take that one contract, Byron Maxwell, off your hands, and I'll take Kiko Alonso with it. And it's like, okay, so we're sitting here at number 8, and now you're the Dolphins. You're saying, now, wait a second. Because think about this. What would the Eagles do at number 8? They may have taken Ezekiel Elliott. That would have made the Dolphins unhappy because I think that the Dolphins were hoping it would fall to 13. They could have taken, Ronnie Stanley, a tackle, but hey, they've got a lot of money tied up on the offensive line as it is, and so that would speed up the departure of Jason Peters to next year. But it's like that would have been a luxury to have a good tackle like Ronnie Stanley, but you figure it was going to be an offensive player, too high to take a receiver. So what were they really going to do? They would have taken maybe Hargreaves, the cornerback, but it's like, hey, we're now looking ahead. We've got 5 guys from 212 and 213 that were drafted, and we've already got extensions with those guys, and so that's a core group that we have into like the 220s. That's good. And then they've got enough talent at a lot of the other positions. They think that if they get good quarterback play, they can win now. So they hope that Bradford can get them to 9 to 10 wins. And then they'll say goodbye to him. And by that time, they hope the quarterback, who probably is going to be Jared Goff, is going to be good enough to take over. And then they move forward with a filled roster.
That's wild, again, because it seems like most people here believe it's going to be Wentz. So when you keep saying Goff, it's like, whoa, shock to the system. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. John Clayton is with us here. I look at where Philadelphia was at 8. Was the juice worth the squeeze, John? I'm okay taking a risk. I'm okay. Here in Philly we laugh because the Sixers have been tanking it up, and I've been supportive because I think the juice is going to be worth the squeeze in the end because I like the options that the Sixers have. I don't know that I love the options that the Eagles have.
Yeah, well, it's funny because last night on SportsCenter I had to do a thing for .com this week picking the 10 general managers who's kind of as like a make or break type of draft. And they said, how come you didn't put Howie Roseman in there? And I said, well, because it's not make or break this year. What it comes down to is that you won't know the answer to the question until the middle of next season, whether this quarterback was worth it or not worth it. And if he's worth it, it's great. And, the one thing that from the Browns standpoint where I think they get to lose a little bit, they may have given away a franchise quarterback and put everything on RG3. That worked out well for the Redskins. And now they only get a 3rd and 4th round pick next year, or this year, and it's going to be hard to hit on a starter in the 3rd or 4th round. So I think in many ways you can see, you look at the lineup and how many real openings, except for maybe a spot or two in the secondary, are there on the Eagles? And not many. That's a good roster. And so I can understand it. I don't know if I agree with it, but I can understand it when I'm sitting here looking at the next 3 years of quarterbacks and saying, I don't know if can you tell me if Deshaun Watson out of Clemson is better than these two quarterbacks? If Chad Kelly, nephew of Jim Kelly, is better than these two quarterbacks, or a quarterback out of Miami is better? I don't know if they are.
Well, but at this time last year, we were talking about Connor Cook. I don't know where Carson Wentz's name was in the hierarchy of guys that you were looking at this time last year, right?
Mm-hmm. But then you're looking at it from Howie's standpoint, and you're saying, listen, we're not going to be 8 again. We're going to be, maybe if we don't make the playoffs, we'll be, 18 to 19. But
which is really interesting because they're essentially saying, Bradford, you're not the guy, but we might be good enough not to have a high draft. It's like a weird dynamic of you're not good enough, but you're good enough to get us to a spot where we don't mind giving away that first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, either Howie is the greatest seer of the future that you can have, or it could be a mistake. I mean, that's the one thing. He's under no pressure now because you can't judge anything until sometime in the middle of next year. And I like both these quarterbacks. I don't agree at all with the idea they're better than Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. I don't buy that. But I do think that when you start to look at the quarterbacks over the next 3 years, there's a decent chance these guys. I mean, first off, look at the guys that are coming through: 6'2", 6'2", 6'2", 6'1", 6 foot. That's next year's crop. There's only three guys that are 6'4" or better in the top 10, and there's only one pro-style quarterback in the next 2 years coming into this draft. And so with that in mind, okay, I know Carson's the pro set guy, and I know that Goff's the spread guy. This is going to take a little bit more time, but it doesn't matter. Both those guys, whatever guy is going to be in Philly, is not going to. He'll be inactive for 16 weeks.
Last one for you, John. Hypothetical, I know. What if Bradford plays well? What if he plays well? 11-5, they win a division, they win a playoff game. Then what?
Well, then Howie Roseman has good trade bait. I guess he can probably get a good draft choice for whatever team's looking for a quarterback. I mean, that's the great thing, because if he plays well, the team wins. They're drafting in the 20s. They got the replacement for Bradford, and they can probably trade him to either the Jets or Denver or somebody like that, whoever's looking for a quarterback. So, you can maybe get some of those draft choices back.
John Clayton, everybody, ESPN senior writer, NFL, here on the Sports Bash 97.3. John, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the draft.
Okay, thanks.
Take care. John Clayton, everybody.